What's going on, guys? My name is Marcus.
Travis. Ellis.
And we are going to be going over the top 10 what we want to see.
Wants, expectations,
From
a couple things we don't want.
Yeah.
Kind of thrown in there, but basically it's there.
From
top 10.
Spyro Reignited Trilogy.
Yes.
And basically, we've talked about it. We can't really say everything we want to see in this little video. So basically,
it'd be impossible, because if there's that, then it's like I want to see like this from this level and this from this level. Like that's not what we're covering here.
Yeah. So like this is as 3 games as a whole, I guess. But there might be some little exceptions.
We're both huge fans of like the original Spyro trilogy, not like this or Skylanders. Like we mean like Spyro, Year of the Dragon, like those games. I've been playing them since I was a little boy. He's been playing them even younger than me. That would have been the same
I was there when I was excited for the trailer for Ripto's Rage. So that goes. I wasn't even walking yet, I don't think.
Yeah, it's Spyro. Like my dad had his own console. He had Crash for it, and I was allowed to play Crash, but Crash was his game. He came and got me Spyro when Spyro came out, and Spyro was my first game for that console. So there's a lot of love for that game between us.
And with that being said, I would like to say that a lot of people love it and a lot of people hate it. The new design of Spyro. I think I don't dislike the design, but I just think maybe a skinnier face and like maybe a little more to the darker purple side. But like as I said, like I don't disagree with anything here. This is just what I would have did. Like
we almost have to actually play it on our own TV to really.
Yeah, but like for example, like we got this, whereas I was expecting something more along the lines of that statue that they showed off like maybe a year or so ago. Yeah. Like that's what I was expecting. Like it's not bad, just something I wasn't expecting. So other than that, let's get into the top 10 things we want to see in Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Let's get into it. So number 10 is have an intro and an outro for every level in all 3 games. Now this is something that made Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage the fan favorite. Every time you entered a level, it had its own little cutscene. And once you beat the level, it had another cutscene to show like what happens after you've been through the level and all the characters in the level and whatnot.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even be like, I'd be okay if they came and like made some for the first game too, but like they don't have to do any of that. Like they could just leave the games as is and added trophies and I would have bought it. Like they didn't have to make these levels and everything that crazy. I still would have bought it, but it's gonna be awesome. But
yeah, so like as said before, take that piece of Spyro 2 and just put that in the 2 games before and after it, and there you go, better game.
Because they added little stuff like that to the Crash Bandicoot. I found like they added just stuff that wasn't there, touched it up out like crazy.
Yeah, it almost doesn't feel like the same game.
But then at the same time, it works so well that if you were new to playing it, you wouldn't even know. I think you wouldn't know.
So that's our thought on that, so let's get into the next one. Number 9, we have fixed gameplay elements for the side characters in Spyro 3. This is kind of obvious, like with the side characters, you have, for example, Agent 9, whereas most of his controls is either like a really shit first-person mode, or it's like, it's really, like I'm replaying that at the moment, the 3rd game, and just the Agent 9 stuff, like basically just make him control like Ratchet and Clank.
And that goes for all the side characters in that game though, because I remember them all kind of like, they didn't have such fluid movement. Like they were all kind of like just, I don't know, they could all use an improvement, and I'm sure we're gonna get it.
It most likely will happen.
But it had to be noted, like it's mainly like he said, it's Agent 9's aiming. Like,
and that would be another thing. Maybe they won't do this because of the certain mini games in the game, but I think it would be interesting if they give us the option to either play as Agent 9 in 3rd person or 1st person.
Just give the option. I think
that would be
in any game you should give everyone the option of that. For them, if third person.
The fact that both modes do exist in the game, there's no reason why it's just make everything feel better. That's all I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
Number 8, we got keep all the small details in all the games. Now this one, I noticed in the new trailer that when Spyro steps on the dragon platforms, it's a little different. Like, it's more of like a shine.
I was going to compare those before we did this video, so I'm not even going to say anything like that, but you can carry on.
I have, like, for example, when Spyro, like, steps on the crystal dragons, it's like a quick shine. Maybe this might be different in the game, but I know I really want to see, like, I want him to step on the platform, and then it loads for a second. While it's loading, you just see, like, the chunks of burning crystal, like, shooting off the dragon. Like, I really want... Yeah, in the first one, yeah, for an example. Yeah. I really want that, but I don't think we're getting that because we've seen in the trailer it's more of like a... And it's like...
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and just stuff like that, I'd like to see them keep as much, like, tiny stuff like that, keep it as faithful to the original as possible.
Even little music when you walk by them.
It's like, it's the little...
You can hear, like, the jingle of them shaking.
Yes, it's the little things like that that just make those games what they were.
Like, you come around the corner and, like, I remember there's sometimes you don't even see it, but you can hear it, so you know it's there. So I'm sure they'll keep that. I don't see why they take that.
Yeah,
but that kind of goes with our next one, with making the game harder, which is our number 7. I'm gonna kind of intertwine these at the moment for a second, because if they did take that out, it might make it a little harder to find certain ones. Mm-hmm. But at the same time,
that was always the thing. But I remember that would be a part of it where I couldn't find a dragon, and like I have it here. You'd be listening, and you could hear like the
rattle of the glass hitting. Like,
you could hear that, and then you'd just be like, "Oh, okay, so I know there's a dragon nearby." So that's something I want to keep too. Like that all.
I want it, but to make the game harder, they could take it out, but I don't want them to. But that leads into our number 7 most wants for the game, and that would be to make the game harder than the original games. And like you made a note that I didn't even know that it progressive, like if you're better at the game than like your cousin and your cousin's playing, the game will like recognize your talent almost.
That's why I think the Insane Trilogy did that as well. Whereas I don't know if it was just me, but this game seemed way harder than when I played the PS1 games as a kid, and I don't know if it's because of that. It just picks, like, just to see how good you're playing or what, but...
I agree, it seemed a lot harder than when I was younger, but maybe it was just as hard. I'd almost have to go back and play the other games, but I have them on PS3, so it's...
And with keeping all the same small details, one thing that the Crash Insane Trilogy did, I really want to keep the main menus for each game and the pause menus for each game the same too. Because in this one it was like all 3 of them were the same, they just kind of color-coded it. Whereas the first game has that classic like radar looking pause menu. The second one's a book. And then the third one I think is the laziest in my opinion, where you can get a book, but that's not the pause. But with that being said, you already know what number 7 is, but let's get into number 7. So number 7 is make the game harder than the original. And this is something, as you just heard us say, we really want to...
Even if it's as much as adding a few extra gems to the game and putting them in spots that we never knew they were in.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Something like that could make the game just a little bit more tedious, a little harder, which the only reason we want it to be harder and tedious is so we can get a little more gameplay.
Yeah,
every time you 100% the Spyro game, it's like...
The fear with this one is...
longer.
The fear with this one is I'm going to have all 3 platinumed in like the span of a week.
Oh, that's what I mean, like Crash. like we just started playing to try and platinum again, but Spyro, like I'll have that platinumed. I'll have the first game platinumed like the day of. I almost guarantee that.
Oh yeah,
Second
for
game
sure.
maybe 2 days, 3 days after, but it's that third game that's gonna take me.
That could almost be an idea for a challenge video.
See who platinums each game first.
So with that being said, let's move on to number 6. And this is keep the soundtrack as faithful as possible. This one I'm a little worried about. We already know that the theme for Dark Hollow, what it sounds like. And if you ask me, it's missing a lot of bass.
I didn't compare those.
It's still the same.
You're the musician here.
It's the same melodic. We're still gonna get the same songs. But for example, I just feel as though in Stone Hill, for example, we're gonna be missing that boom 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 boom, because that's the song.
Maybe they left that out of the trailer.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm hoping they left it out of the trailer,
or they could have just made the song like longer so it like builds up.
Like I do want, like, because those bass lines they hypnotize you, man. Like they're just
the music to that, like you have noted here, the music to that is very well like compared to John Williams in Star Wars. Like,
well, no, this is, you could almost say Stuart Copeland is like the John Williams of the video game world.
Oh yeah, like that game is awesome, but the music is what keeps you so
like
joyful.
I seen somebody on the internet had like it was just like a comparison to the Spyro levels being played with and without the music. And it's like you're playing a completely different game. It's it's the mood, man. It sets the mood completely. So this is something I'm hoping.
Well, it's like Jaws. Could you imagine the Jaws movie without
it? Yeah, exactly. It's all about the feel. Yeah. So that's one thing we really want to see.
Do you know if he is coming back for the soundtrack?
I'm not sure if he is, but if anything, I don't know. I'm not too sure. With that being said,
keep it faithful and we'll be happy.
Number 5. And this is keep all the dialogue the same. This is probably the most likely, This is the most unlikely to happen on this list. But it's just gonna feel weird hearing different dialogue from all those characters. Like, for example, the first game, there wasn't too much dialogue, whereas the second and third game, you had tons of different characters with a lot of dialogue. And I can't imagine.
Do you think they're gonna add more dialogue to the first game?
If they,
because like I'm thinking back on it, you don't really hear Spyro talk.
I don't think they might add like effects to him. Like say if he goes and flames an enemy, he'll just be like haha or something like that.
Yeah,
maybe
something to just
like to keep it going. And like that would, if they do that, please give us the option to shut that off. If you do it, I'm open to having it. But please, if that happens, give us the dialogue.
Originality out of it to me, but at the same time, it still spice it up a little. So give Spyro a little more character.
When it comes to the dialogue in the first game, like all the thank you for releasing me dragons need to stay. Like don't just take those dragons and add dialogue into them.
A bunch of
because there was a bunch, and like as I said, those are just part of the game that made it. Like you can always say, remember 20 years ago when we played Spyro? Remember those friggin' dragons? Thank you for releasing me 80 dragons in the game, and at least 20 of them are like that. Like that's gotta stay. So with that being said, keep the loading screens the same. This is most likely to happen. This is a must.
Yeah.
So
I feel like if they were to change this, it would be too much of a change.
Yeah, like Toys for Bob, you can't screw us over on this one. And I don't think you're going to, because we already seen that little clip in the Reignited trailer where it looks like he's flying to a different world. Whereas in the first game, he does it, and it's just a side view of him, and without even fading to black, it just goes right into the level. I think they're going to do that with all 3 games. Whereas with the third game and the second game, you have like, it's like, it almost seems like it's taken a while. Not to us, because the loading in those games are very good, but like how it just cuts and then shows a different angle of them flying. And another, it seems like it's like a little journey or something. Whereas if you have to pick one or the other, I'm cool if you have to do that, but see if you can keep the Spyro 1 loading screens its own thing, and then the same 2 for 2 and 3.
Just like leave them as is, but
just make them look
essentially,
pretty as hell.
Yeah. Which, like you said, is almost guaranteed, but still gotta hope for it, right?
So, number 3. Keep all the original end credits in all 3 games. And this is another must.
I don't think they'll take this one from us. I don't think
the fact that it's the same in all 3 games, like the same style, same theme, same everything, I think we basically are going to get this. We're gonna just get that montage of like once you beat the game, it just shows like all the levels you've been to.
Oh man, imagine if like,
at
the end of the 3rd one they made a new one for like.
And then that classic
like
theme
one
comes
after
on.
the post-credit scene, and it's like a certain character walking up to Spyro.
And like that classic theme though, like he really is like the John Williams for Spyro, man. Like that just sets the mood for what you're doing and what you're sitting there for. Like it's perfect. Don't change the end credits for the games because they're iconic.
Wasn't the end credit for the first one Spyro with like sunglasses?
That was the post-credit scene, in the first game. That's if you 100% the whole game, and then it shows like the credits again.
Yeah,
they redo it with like different levels. With that being said, we are very close. This one was kind of a no-brainer, but I would say that it was hard to pick whether do I put which one at number 1 and which one at number 2, but this was a no-brainer. You'll see by the time we get to number 1. So number 2, don't give Sparks a English-speaking voice. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one who thought that which one was it? I think it was A Hero's Tale, where as soon as he starts talking in the game, it's not like that, like sounds like a bug. It was an actual speaking voice, and it's just like, wait, what?
I know, I rewatched like different voiceovers for Sparks, and like I definitely prefer the and like I don't know, it just feels right when it's like that. Whenever there's someone talking as Sparks, it's like
it would be different, I guess, if he had a ton of dialogue in the game, but he only had dialogue in the 3rd game, and it was only for maybe 4 levels in the whole game where he talked.
Well, I mean, like Navi and like Legend of Zelda and stuff. It's like, hey, listen, and that's like almost the only thing it ever says, and then everything else you have to read. Like that's how I want Sparks to be. I just want to get the and I actually have to read the dialogue.
And I think this is going to happen. I don't think they're going to change it because the voice actor who did voice Sparks in the 3rd game is coming back to do it again, as well as Spyro too. The guy who voiced Spyro in the 2nd and 3rd game is coming back, so I'm interested to hear his dialogue in the 1st game.
You almost have to. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't have to in this day and age, but
now before we get into the number 1,
more hyped you have to.
Now before we get into the number 1 Spyro Reignited Trilogy want, there's tons of other things that we'd like to talk about, but this video is just, we can't fit everything in one video. Like, I think the video already turned way longer than I was expecting it to, so that's just proof right there that you can't fit everything in. So, with that being said, we're just gonna do like a quick little honorable mentions list, so we're not gonna be like numbering off like we might spend like 30 seconds on this. So, with this being said, our first honorable mention is add more thieves to Spyro 2.
I'm down for adding these thieves and everything. Like, I'm down for adding this stuff throughout all the games. Like, add more stuff, make it a little longer. Mm-hmm. Maybe make it a little more challenging. Like the thieves, you always had to chase them and shit.
Whereas there was
send them on crazy or different courses or something.
There was like very little of them in Spyro 2, and this one adds on to that. The next honorable mention, add dragon eggs to Spyro 2, and that partners up with the thieves idea. Just throw a bunch of random dragon eggs that these thieves have in the 2nd game, and that's how you can even bring those little pink ones back. And in the 3rd and in the 3rd game, how the big eggs are your main collectible, they can even bring the pink eggs into the 3rd game, and they can just be like a secondary collectible. And maybe they can officially name those the dragonfly eggs or something like that. Who knows?
I'm down for that, because like we said earlier, adding this stuff to the game would make it harder, make it more challenging.
And it'll make it a little more different, while at the same time just making it better.
And it's not changing the game at all.
Yeah,
it's just making it
don't change the game in tone. For example, like Ratchet and Clank did, the remake of that, where I find the tone was way different than the original. Just as long as the tone stays the same here, it's all good.
And like, we're not gonna complain if you add more gems or eggs or thieves. Like, we are not gonna complain if you do that at all.
So our next honorable mention is add a hover command in Spyro 1.
Yeah.
Now in Spyro 1, whenever all you do is in the Spyro games, you jump and glide, and if you press the triangle button, he hovers right quick, and you can just boost him up a little bit. Whereas if you press the triangle game or the triangle button in the first game, he just drops, and there's nothing you can do about it. So like, let's say you beat that game 100%, maybe have it as like an unlockable or something at the end of the game.
So it's like you can have it if you want to go back through and collect all the, or not even give it to you when you get all the gems or something.
Yeah, like say if you 100% the game, you have the option as like maybe a new game plus mode to go back, and instead of dropping, you now have a different way of playing the first Spyro game, because you can do this now that you never could before, that you could do in the other games. So it gives it a little bit of a different experience, but as we said before, that doesn't change the tone, so why not?
And if you were to give it to us right off the hop, people would be like, hey, this isn't Spyro. Spyro couldn't do this in the first game. So to shut them up, make us unlock everything, then give it to us.
And our next honorable mention is I want the cheat codes from Spyro 2 and 3 to still be there, and may as well just put them in Spyro 1. Now in the
you can almost
PS1 games,
this with the next one.
Yes, you could.
Yeah.
With this one, you could put you could type in these codes, and it would change Spyro's color. It could give him a big head mode. Like you could make him like paper thin mode. Like there's a bunch of these weird little cheats. I think this.
What does that sound like? We were talking about that earlier, and I never did it. But now that you're talking about the big head mode, were these things you could unlock and set off?
No, all you had to do was press pause and just type this code in. And when you came out of the pause menu, he was changed.
I didn't discover cheats till later on.
Now, basically, with our next one, this connects to our to the last honorable mention. Just have a shitload of unlockable stuff. Like, there's no reason. Bring video games back to what they used to be, and instead of saying, "Hey, here's a super duper head bash mode," but you got to go on PSN and buy it for $1.50.
$2.99.
It's like, I'm sorry, but whatever happened to the days where you beat the game and then you unlock everything? Whatever happened to those games? That's what I want. Make a bunch of new modes for the new characters, like unlockables galore, skins.
That's like cheat codes for skins in the last.
Like add new skins.
Make it so you can unlock them. Don't even make it so you have to put cheats in.
Add like a metal head Spyro, where his head's just like made out of metal or something. Like something dumb like that. Just make a bunch of weird unlockables that you don't buy, you just unlock them.
It'll have us playing it more.
Yeah, like that's how you get them. I'm sorry, but make sure this is like this. Like make sure you don't need to buy anything else after this comes out on, what is it, the 21st of September? Make sure that when we buy it that day, you don't need to go and buy a bunch of stuff.
Season pass for $9.99.
Yeah, like no. Spyro, no. Don't do it. No. With this last honorable mention is take the Crash Reignited Trilogy, and you know how
this is almost
recently,
like, I feel like this is almost
a given.
It almost should happen. Like,
whereas when I remember when we were waiting for Spyro to drop, and everybody was saying, if you go to the Crash game, the Insane Trilogy, and go to Crash Warped and type the code in that you did on the original Warped back in 20 years ago, you get a demo. And vice versa with the Spyro games. I think that they should say, if you don't have Spyro, but you have the Reignited Trilogy. Say if you don't have Spyro, but you have the Crash game and you want to play Spyro, I think you should be able to play a level or two as a demo in the Insane Trilogy.
Well, I think once Spyro's like after E3 and stuff, and maybe they release an actual demo, maybe you can go in and play the actual first world or something.
That would have been cool, but that's what I was thinking. Imagine the day the trailer was released, or maybe even when the next trailer is released at E3. Imagine if we do get an early demo and they say, "Do you want to play the first level? Here, go and
Man, we'll if that happens, we'll be covering it. We'll probably be streaming.
Oh man, so that's what I was hoping to get. Like I've been waiting and theorizing. Like that's what I thought was gonna happen. That there's just gonna be this random update for the Insane Trilogy, but it didn't happen. So with that being said, the honorable mentions are all done now. Finally, longest 30 seconds I think ever. So this is something that we all want. Everybody wants. We've always wanted it, and it's not a complaint, but we want for our number one want from the Reignited Trilogy is for it to do so good that we get a brand new Spyro game. Now you tell me, like, let's get honest, like, we all want the Reignited Trilogy, don't get me wrong, but like, what we really want is an original, brand new levels, brand new this and that. Like, that's what we want. Come on, like, you tell me that's not...
If we don't get the brand new game, then... Well, I mean, I want the brand new game. I'm begging for a brand new game after this. But I want, like, at least, like, a new level in each of the games. Or, like, I was gonna say a new level in each world for the Spyro game, but I feel like that's too much. So maybe just give us a new level in each game. Kind of like in Crash, they released that DLC.
Well, that also comes into this too. I think, for example, I think Crash, the perfect DLC for that is to release.
We talked about this
is to release Crash Team Racing as DLC.
As soon as that game came out, I was like, all right, release CTR for like $15 as DLC, and I'll buy that. Like that's DLC.
But see, that's how you get them. Say if you want Crash Team Racing, you gotta go and buy this.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. $20, $15. Here's Crash Team Racing. Do the same thing with Spyro, but go back and finish Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, because that fits in with the tone of those games. It had Stuart Copeland on doing the music for it. It had all the. It just was rushed. That's the only problem. Now
I watched some footage of that.
This is the opportunity to bring that back as the same thing as a DLC.
If they can do what they're doing to this in Spyro, they can make that a piece of art.
And with all these games coming out, with the last thing to be said here, who doesn't want an official Spyro and Crash crossover?
Oh man.
Like, who wants one game that's not called Spyro the Dragon, Crash comes around, or Crash Bandicoot, the flame shows up, or something stunned like that? No, like, imagine if we got a game that's straight up called Spyro and Crash. And that's it.
Like Crash riding Spyro and levels.
Like, that's it. And it could be like a perfect co-op idea, like online co-op. I don't see hardly any of that.
Yeah, no.
Like online co-op, that would be awesome.
Even if they have to, like we said, like we want a new Spyro game after this game. So make the new Spyro game, keep it in tone with the remasters, obviously, but make this new game, make a new Crash game, release it both in the same year, like 6 months apart, and then announce that in a year's time we're gonna have a collab of like.
I do believe this is gonna happen, because Vicarious Visions has this 5-year plan with Crash Bandicoot. Like, there's more games officially coming, whereas Vicarious Visions, they have that, whereas we thought Vicarious Visions was going to do the Spyro games too.
Oh yeah, I thought for sure.
But the fact that Toys for Bob is doing it, they're both Activision properties, is the fact that 1 year Toys for Bob can release a Spyro game, and the year after that we can get a Crash game and then a Spyro game, and then it can lead to something.
They're doing this because, like, let's be honest, these games aren't like Fallout or anything crazy. They're relatively,
the price says it. Like,
they're relatively easier to make, so they should be able to spit more out without killing it.
Without going overboard, yeah.
And then while they're doing that, they definitely have enough time to secretly work on a crossover.
Together, and that's how you do it quick, is if you have two companies working together. Right?
You sell these games for $50. You give us a crossover, we'll pay $100 for that.
Yeah, especially even if you don't put all the time into it, just make it like that. It doesn't even have to be this big AAA game. I would spend $100 on it.
Yeah.
I would
buy the friggin' $200 version, like whatever. Like, I'm down.
Oh god. Well, with that being said, guys, that about wraps up our top 10 wants from Spyro Reignited Trilogy.
If you guys have any wants that we might have forgotten, leave it in the comment below and let us know, because we know we didn't cover even
We didn't even cover a portion of the
Yeah,
stuff we
no.
want to see, but what can you do? So yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, let us know, and subscribe, please. We love it.
Yeah.
We'd love if you subscribed. With that being said, guys, my name is Marcus.
I'm Travis.
We're gonna see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.
See you later.
Awesome. Wonder how long that was.